Doing well, doing well. Thanks for having me.
All right, so The Guardian has this piece that kind of throws water on the argument that DHS isn't working with social media. They are, aren't they?
Yeah. So not too long ago, your listeners may remember the Biden administration's effort to create the Disinformation Governance Board. They may remember that it was going to be helmed by
Nina
Mary
Jankowicz.
Poppins. Yeah, Nina Jankowicz, Mary Poppins, whatever you want to call her. And the public backlash was so fierce, so extreme, that the Biden administration scrapped it. Well, this new bombshell revelation shows that maybe that Disinformation Governance Board isn't as buried as we thought it was. And it turns out that while the Biden administration may not be engaging in overt coercion of social media platforms to remove content the Biden administration doesn't like, it is still been engaged in covert coercion, basically behind the scenes engagements and threats to social media businesses to remove content the administration doesn't want to see.
Now, if you told me that DHS is working with these websites to sort of look at, foreign, like the whole Russian bot thing, or at least the accusation of it, no, I'd get that. But what it seems like DHS is doing is trying to keep Americans. Like we saw this with the Hunter Biden laptop story. There's no denying that was branded as Russian disinformation by social media at the behest of the Biden administration. I mean, by the federal government, excuse me.
Yeah, I mean, this bombshell has Homeland Security memos where they basically said they want to address inaccurate information on issues including the origins of COVID-19, racial justice, the U.S. withdrawal from Afghanistan. So in essence, if you were to go out there and say Biden botched the withdrawal from Afghanistan, we have a federal government that is now going to work to make sure that that post gets taken down as misinformation. And this is the type of government action that should scare all of us, because as much as it will frustrate me as a conservative when Facebook or Twitter takes down content that I like, that's one thing. That's a private business decision, and I can be frustrated with that. It's a wholly different thing when the government of the United States is forcing the removal of this type of content. That is an Orwellian step that should scare all of us, and it's the type of Orwellian step that this administration needs to be held to account for, hopefully, come January under a Republican Congress.
I kind of want to see all the receipts. When Mark Zuckerberg is going around saying, well, the FBI made contact with us and they let us know that maybe this was, I want to see the receipts. Was there any, threatening language? What did the FBI lie to these social media sites? Did they work hand in hand with one another? Because, I think the Hunter Biden laptop story is very important. And to think Nina Jankowicz was out there, she was out there mocking it. She potentially could have been in charge of an organization that is deciding what is truth and what is a lie. And it turned out that the Hunter Biden laptop story was the truth.
Absolutely. One of the things is there's a lot of unknown unknowns, as they say. And that's why we need congressional investigations. That's why we need oversight. That's why we need accountability on this administration, on any administration that would try to use its political power to seize control of social media and of free speech. Now, there is some good news, by the way. I don't want to be all doom and gloom here. Representatives Jim Jordan, Kathy McMorris Rodgers, and Comer, many of whom look to be helming government bureaus and congressional oversight come the new administration, they actually have legislation that would make it illegal for federal employees to abuse their position for political purposes. And that's just common sense. Once upon a time, I was a federal employee. Don't hold that against me. But when you're a federal employee, public service is public trust. You don't work for the Democratic Party. You don't work for the Republican Party. You work for the United States of America. You work for the American people. And you need to leave your personal politics at the door. So we have a bill that's been introduced by these three conservative representatives to just say, when you are a federal employee, you have to put the protection of the American people first and ahead of your personal policies. And the bill is actually called the Protecting Speech from Government Interference Act. It is a no-nonsense piece of legislation that will block this administration and any future administration from trying to engage in this type of coercive power. But we can't stop there. We need oversight. We need investigations. We need full transparency and accountability as to what this administration has been doing and is doing to censor speech online.
Do you sense that they're essentially saying that we have to, we can't, shout fire in a crowded theater. We have to engage in this censorship to, protect democracy from these, nefarious ne'er-do-wells who are going to say things online that we don't like?
Every time somebody says we have to protect our democracy, I first want to say we don't have a democracy. We have a republic.
No, I know that. I'm just saying.
Oh, yeah. Oh, no, not you. I'm talking about the rhetoric we're hearing out of the Democratic Party every single day, that we're hearing out of the president in presidential addresses. And you don't want any administration being the arbiter of truth. And this administration is a great exemplar of it. If President Trump had tried to do any of this, CNN, MSNBC, everyone would have flipped the table over and would have been screaming from the tops of their lungs, this is fascism, this is censorship. But because Biden does it, it's okay? No. It should not be okay, regardless of who does it. And so I'm really glad that this is being brought to light. And we need to have more accountability when the government is trying to force any person, any business to say something they don't want to say.
Do you think...
Go
ahead. Good.
So I will add one small asterisk. We do have situations where we do want tech working with government. And a simple example would be removing posts from known human traffickers, removing posts that promote fentanyl delivery, removing stuff that results in child exploitation. So there are examples, but they're mostly on the law enforcement side. And it's one thing to have law enforcement come and say, this is a child trafficker, come help us stop them, as opposed to the government coming in and saying, if you don't remove this post we don't like, we are going to come after you, your business, and your employees. And that's potentially what we've been seeing out of this administration. That's what's been unveiled.
And I would just say to any Democrat, be careful what you wish for, because you know what? Maybe you think this is a way of holding on to power, but if you create a new weapon, I always say it, political weapons are rarely sheathed. Be careful what you wish for, because if you make a political weapon, it may be used against you. So why don't we agree that there should be free speech on the internet, and we shouldn't be using these weaselly tactics to keep our political opposition from speaking their minds and speaking freely? And if you call yourselves promoters of journalism and democracy, then when there's a story like in the New York Post, you don't go out there to actively quash it before an election. I got to leave it there. My top of the hour music's going to kick in. Carl, I'll be talking to you on Salem News Channel in the near future, I'm sure.
Thanks very much.
All right. So, 5 p.m.